This year, the City of Atlanta made history, electing 4 members of the City Council who are openly part of the LGBTQ community. Liliana Bakhtiari, Keisha Waits, Alex Wan, and Matt Westmoreland now represent 1 in 4 of the council's 16 members. Malik Brown, the director of the mayor's division of LGBTQ affairs, sat down recently with each of them to discuss the impact of this important moment.
When you were first elected, you were the first openly gay man and the only LGBTQ person at the time. What does it feel like today, coming into a council chamber of 3 other LGBTQ people? How does that feel?
I feel like all the work that I've done over the last it's 3 decades now. No, but seriously, in the LGBTQ community, has been around just championing all the principles and values that we've been trying to champion around equality. To have all 4 of us on here means that that work is starting to pay off, and that voices that are so critical to our process, voices in our community that have not been heard and have not been given the opportunity to express themselves and be part of the dialogue, are now part of the dialogue.
So when I look at your resume, particularly around nonprofits, there's a particular focus on youth. Can you tell me why you're so passionate about youth?
I just really appreciate and fundamentally believe that they're our future. I also feel like they are so much more receptive. They are open-minded, they are curious. Let's take advantage of that. Let's tap into that and show them that anything is possible.
Good morning, Councilmember Bakhtiari. You are in your freshman term as a council member. Can you tell us how that feels?
I'm still getting used to it. When people say council member instead of Liliana, it's still very confusing and surreal, but I love it. It's chaotic, which my past prepped me for. This is where childhood trauma comes into play in like a positive way. It makes you really good at functioning in chaotic environments. But suddenly having the ability to have resources and be connected to people who can like move mountains in the city is a tremendous privilege, and it's really exciting.
With this recent inauguration, we swore in 4 openly LGBTQ people. Can you tell us how that feels?
Well, it's really nice to have people who understand it and who understand the challenges, and also now it's more of a discussion with our straight colleagues who all seem very eager to be the best allies they can be. So getting to talk about that, also getting to talk about my own non-binary and gender fluid status, and I'm growing into that. I'm going to be going through a lot of changes over the next few years. And having this caucus on council makes me feel much safer doing so, because not a lot of people understand that identities are stackable. Not a lot of people understand gender fluidity or feeling in between or struggles with gender dysphoria. So 1, it makes me feel seen and makes me feel safe to talk about it. But at the same time, it also is an opportunity to have these conversations in this environment and from this platform and make it something that's more commonplace and make people understand that this is like anybody has the possibility, no matter your identity, to hold a position like this. So we get to make this conversation more mainstream, which makes a lot of other kids feel seen.
Can you tell us the change in the state and the city that you've seen as far as tolerance and accepting, and even just where the LGBTQ community is versus when you started your service?
One of the changes that come to mind for me probably is when you look at our pride. I believe we probably have one of the largest pride celebrations in the country. And I've seen that grow over the years. And one of the things that I always talked about on the campaign trail is that my understanding of the needs and issues of the LGBTQ community don't come from reading the paper. I don't go to Pride to campaign. I celebrate Pride. I am Pride. And so it's a little bit different. And frankly, it's just seeing the evolution, having friends who were not as open-minded, having parents who were in fact homophobic, and watching them evolve over the years and their level of tolerance and the healing that's taken place in my family, I think is important. I have 2 siblings that are out. and open LGBTQ members. I had a brother that I lost several years ago in 1991 to the virus. And so hospital work is very dear and personal to someone like me. And so again, I get to wake up every day and live my truth and frankly to do work that I really care about. And so that's exciting.
You've touched on this, and especially in 2022, we talk a lot about intersectional identities. Can you talk about the intersection of being a Black woman and a member of the LGBTQ community and how that shows up in your work?
The way that I describe that is that I am no stranger to alienation. I am no stranger to being underestimated and overlooked. And so as a triple minority, being a woman, first being an African American woman, and then certainly, having the tag of the stigma for some, being LGBTQ is tough. And that's not an easy walk.
So on the eve of your inauguration, you came out. It was shocking to some people and I think heartwarming to most. Can you talk about what that felt like in that process and how it's been since?
Honestly, I wrestled with that decision. The fact that the content was so personal, the desire to live in a world where such pronouncements aren't necessary, fear that people would look at who I chose to be with and that would somehow impact how they viewed me or my public service. But honestly, part of what drove me to do it was looking at students, like the ones I had taught at Carver or the ones across Atlanta who maybe have ever struggled themselves with being authentic and real and truthful, either with themselves or with others. And if my public statements can help them in whatever they might be struggling with, I thought that was something that I definitely wanted to do.
So there was something that you said in your coming out statement that to the effect of you hope to live in a world where people don't have to do this anymore. Can you just build on that and tell me what you meant?
I hope we one day live in a world where people don't really look twice at two guys as they're holding hands, just as hopefully they won't look twice at an interracial couple doing the same thing. We're not there yet. We've made a tremendous amount of progress. I'm living into and coming into a world that's very different than it was for people 10, 20, 30, 40 years ago. And I'm very fortunate about that. And I think we'll keep making progress.
In May of 2021, a historical marker was erected near the intersection of Ponce de Leon Avenue and Oakdale Road. It tells the story of the life and tragic death of Porter Flenory Turner. He was a husband and father of 2 sons. A diligent provider, Turner worked 60 hours a week as a mechanic and porter at a car dealership and garage. He made extra money by driving a cab at night. On the evening of August 20th, 1945, 50-year-old Turner was stabbed on the lawn of a home on Springdale Road. It would be June of 1946 before it was revealed that members of the Ku Klux Klan bragged about Turner's killing. No arrests were ever made in the lynching.
started. Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to the briefing for the March 2nd Finance Executive Committee meeting. All right, as per our practice, we're going to just jump right into the agenda and run through them, the items, and get any additional information requests needed for that. Ms. Kempson, right, I understand we have two presentations, the Department of Finance FY22 Q2 update, as well as a COVID-19 funds report. Colleagues, there were supposed to be two other presentations that have, one was the legislative update carried over from last cycle. However, Ms. Mitchell has a meeting, a conflict on Wednesday as well, and I think they're going to circulate, if they haven't already, just a written report for us. So just be on the lookout for that. And then Office of Customer Service was going to as well, but I had to reschedule, so we'll pick them up in the next cycle. But we will go ahead and move forward with the two presentations that are listed here. All right, I'm going to go ahead and move on to we have three items for first read that will get read in and then addressed at the following FEC meeting. That takes us to ordinances for second read. First item 4, 22-01107. It's a council member Boone's paper. Looks like this is the one that was referred back to committee regarding the Office of Violence Reduction. Who will be speaking to this? And do we have a resolution for this based on the feedback from the previous council meeting? So is Ms. Burks, are you going to be talking to this, or will someone else?
Hi, good afternoon. Yes, Councilmember, this is LaShandra. Okay. I and Jack Quill will be on the call, but I can tell you we have had conversations with Emory this week as well as our law department. Okay. And so it looks as if what has been acceptable to them, and they're doing their final review today, is that we will go for an initial term of 18 months so that we can line up with Emory's school calendar year and their fiscal year. And then we will do 3 one-year options to renew after that.
Okay.
So I'm hoping that that is a little more acceptable.
All right, so we will... So I'm assuming we'll have a substitute brought in on Wednesday that has these new parameters. Is that the plan? Okay.
Yes. We should have that to Santana tomorrow by 1:30. By our 1:30 deadline tomorrow is the hope.
All right. Hey, colleagues, any more information or we're not deliberating on this now, but just any additional information requests before this comes to us on Wednesday? Okay. Very good. Thank you, Ms. Burks. All right, next item, number 5, 22-01136. This is a paper to exercise renewal option number 2 with Seagull. Who will be speaking to this from the department or from the administration?
Good afternoon, Councilmember Juan. This is Yolanda Carr. I'll be speaking to the legislation. This is really an accounting legislation so that we can record the long-term liability, and Seagull provides that service to us. To determine exactly how much we need to book on our financial statements. So really, this is just going through that process of determining what it is that we need from a financial statement standpoint.
Right, that's the work that they perform, but this is the actual contract renewal that covers the services for that, correct?
Correct, that is correct.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. So, Ms. Carr, as I'm looking at this, I think we do need to make sure you're prepared to address the fact that this is retroactive. Talk through the timing piece of this. And then I understand that we're kind of habitually retroactive on this one. So that the previous renewal was done late and the one before. So I would be prepared to talk through that as well.
Sure, and I'll get with procurement to make sure they're on call as well. Thank you.
Okay. Colleagues, any other questions or requests for information on this legislation item number 5? All right, number 6, 22-01137. This is for some acquisition of property interest for some sidewalk installation, Barge Road. So who from Atlanta DOT will be speaking to this, I'm assuming?
Good afternoon, Mr. Chair. I believe the next 4 items are all ADOT papers.
Okay.
I don't know if anyone from ADOT is on the line, but they will be prepared to speak towards these items.
Okay.
I believe items 7 and 8 are related to the Morris Mill, Howell Mill intersection improvement project.
Okay.
I don't know if you want to take those items together.
We can, if there's no objection from the committee on Wednesday. All right, colleagues, any questions? Let's start with the Barge Road one first. Any requests for information for ADOT as they prepare for Wednesday? Okay, and then item 7 and 8, any questions or requests for information on the Morris Mill Road project? Mr. Pace, I do want to clarify, though, on these 2 papers that the funding that the accounts are drawing from, that these were contemplated in the original budget, the bonds, and somewhere along the line, we just got an account number mixed up. So it's basically tapping into funds that were committed specifically for this project, not new funds, correct?
Yeah, I'll confirm that. I believe I'll confirm that for you, Mr. Chair.
Okay, thank you. It's actually impact fee and then infrastructure bond. So yeah, just wanted to make sure that they were already committed funds that we just are reconnecting the dots directly back to. Other questions or requests from my colleagues?
Yeah, Shook with a question.
Go for it.
So, impact fee funds. So I take it that there will be documentation regarding where the impact fee generation originated.
Mr. Pace, can you make sure ADOT has that information for Mr. Shook on Wednesday?
I will ensure that's added, Mr. Chair, Councilman.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Shook. Any other questions or requests for information on the Morris Mill project? All right, item number 9, 22-01140. This is to correct an old ordinance with some parcel numbers, just correcting parcel ID numbers for a Fairburn Road Complete Streets project. Mr. Pace, you said this was ADOT as well. Okay.
Right. This is for the Fairburn Road Complete Street right-of-way project. So it's just correcting the exhibit with the list of parcels.
Any questions or information needed from my colleagues on this one? Was that somebody? Okay. Somebody who needs to... Y'all, if y'all aren't speaking, I'll ask you to please mute your line so we don't get the feedback. Okay, so item number 10, 22-01141. This is a personnel paper. We have a substitute for this that more details the actual positions. Ms. Kempson-Wright, that will be circulated to the committee in advance. Is that correct? Has it already been circulated or going to be circulated?
It will be circulated. It's not been yet.
Okay. All right. Questions from my colleagues? I have one before we go. So I'm assuming, just if it's not a fee neutral, a dollar neutral paper, that it doesn't add additional funding to it. But if it does, that y'all come prepared to share that information and justification for it.
And good afternoon.
Commissioner Norman. Thank you. Yep.
Yeah, and this is basically a small abolishment paper. And so we have identified, somewhere around 80 positions. And so we are really pushing this forward just to get some of those positions off the books. But this is a budget neutral paper. Anything with the potential to have any type of financial impact, we would anticipate that would be presented as part of the FY23 personnel paper.
Okay. All right. Very good. Questions or requests for information on this paper from my colleagues? All right, the next 3 items, 22-01151, 54, and 57. These are Councilmember Bakhtiari's annexation papers. These will be held so that the accompanying land use papers can make it through CDHS in that process. But any questions or requests for information on this in advance of us being all holding the papers on Wednesday? All right. Okay, item number 14, 22-01162. This is Ms. Bakhtiari's paper, also about I Speak Atlanta language access training. Ms. Bakhtiari, are you on the call with us today, by chance? I don't see her. Okay.
Mr. Chair, we do have someone from the Mayor's Office of Equity, Diversity, Inclusion, Ms. LaShawn Dudley. Someone from their office will speak to the paper. I don't know if Ms. Dudley has anything she'd like to add.
Hi, good afternoon. Thank you, Theo, Mr. Chair. We will be on the call to answer any questions that are held, and Valerie Mills is also on the call as well, who's leading the I Speak ATL planning.
Great. I just would want some more information in terms of what the training kind of, is it in person, or will it be online, how long it takes, just so that we understand, by adopting this, what you're asking our employees to complete. Just, if you'll have that Wednesday, that'd be great. Other questions or, thank you. Other questions or requests for information from my colleagues on this? Okay, 22-01163. This is my paper regarding revenue sharing with Pratt Recycling. Who from the department will be speaking to this? Someone from Public Works, I assume, or Solid Waste?
Mr. Chair, I believe Al Wiggins will speak to items 15 and 16.
Okay. All right. Any questions or requests for information on the recycling revenue sharing? All right, we'll move on to item 16, 22-01164. This is Councilmember Collier Overstreet's GMA acquisition paper. Mr. Wiggins will be speaking to this. I do think, and I don't know if this is a finance request, but for the new council members, I think it would be helpful to give just some very broad stroke information on how the GMA financing tool works, and kind of the mechanics of it, what we use it for, so that they understand that. Is that a finance request?
Yes, sir. This is Tim, and we can prepare a briefing for the new members on GMA.
Yeah, Ms. Wilson, I think just a couple of minutes on that on Wednesday would be fine. Just so you know, it is a little outside, not I would say outside the norm. I mean, we use it all the time, but it'd be helpful for them to know how this all works financially. So thank you. Other questions or requests? All right. Item 17, 22-01167. This is Councilmember Lewis's paper. This is donating previously used computers. So I'm assuming we'll have a substitute for this that actually designates who they're being donated to. Ms. Kempston, do we know who is spearheading that? Do you know if Mr. Lewis will be here on Wednesday to speak to this, or is someone else from council staff driving this?
Councilmember right now.
Oh, excellent. So will you be there to speak to this and kind of the thought and answer questions?
Yeah, I can answer the questions now as well. So we have about. Go ahead.
Yeah, I would say we typically use briefing only to just tee up the questions without diving into the deliberation. But to my colleagues, does anyone have any questions or requests for information so that Mr. Lewis will be prepared on Wednesday? I'm sorry. Yeah, Mr. Lewis. Sorry. Yeah, that's right. Okay. All right, then we'll move on. Thank you, Mr. Lewis. The next item is item 18, 22-01168. This is my paper. This is correcting some fund accounts for Fire Station Fund 19 renovation money. I just want to confirm either with ADOT or Finance that we do have the correct account numbers now, because this was a paper that Councilmember I did, but because the fund accounts were incorrect, going to a bond account is having to come back. But do we have that correct this time around, just to make sure? Because I know that
project's under a pretty tight timeline right now. Is anyone from maybe finance? I'm assuming this is going to be a finance question in terms of account numbers.
We'll confirm that. I have that as the same note that it was missing the FPOA, but we'll confirm that it has the correct account stream.
Okay. All right. Thank you, Ms. Wilson. Other questions or from my colleagues? All right. So numbers 19 and 20 and 23 actually are council donations. So 22-01178 Westmoreland to Little 5 Point Center for Arts and Community. 79 Westmoreland paper to Atlanta Technical College. And then 23 are council members Overstreet, Boone, Waits, and Dozier for Cascade Springs Nature Preserve. Any questions or requests for information on those 3 items? Okay, that's straightforward. Item 21 and 22, 22-01180 and 1181, Councilmember Bond's paper, trying to identify projects for the infrastructure bond funds. Mr. Bond, are you on the call today? Okay. All right, so in terms of finance / ADOT on this, I just want to confirm that these papers, or if someone can make sure to be able to speak to this, that these papers in terms of granting the request would either open up the entire project list for the infrastructure bond, or would have to come out of the respective council district. I don't want to call it discretionary, but the allocations that were, but yeah, it is council discretionary horizontal projects. So I just wanted procedurally, if someone can be there to speak to and confirm, that's my understanding. In order to affect these papers, one of those 2 actions would have to happen. Is that an ADOT question or a finance question? No one wants to touch it.
I'll make sure that's circulated, council member. The legislation does speak to the council discretionary accounts.
Okay.
You and I spoke about one of the items on Friday. I also spoke to the other district council member as well about it.
Okay, I just want to make sure that the committee understands in order to approve this request, that's the impact it would have. And if it does not come out of discretionary, the only other option would be to essentially open up the entire project list again and squeeze it in and take it from another project. So I think, yeah, Mr. Pace, if you just make sure someone, if it's finance or if it's ADOT, is there that can relay that. I think that's important for these 2 papers.
Will do.
Thank you, Mr. Pace. All right, so we've talked. All right. Any other questions or requests for information on those 2? All right, item 23, 22-01182. This is Overstreet, Boone, Waits, and Dozier paper. Oh no, I've already talked about that one. Sorry. Item number 24, which is 22-01183, is Overstreet and Mr. Faroki's paper for the Zernona Clayton statue project. I understand there's a substitute coming in, Ms. Kempson-Wright. Is that correct?
Yes, that's correct. We have additional sponsors and the amount will change.
Okay. And that'll be an opportunity if any other committee member wants to sign on, they can do it at that point. Okay. Questions or requests for information on that? All right, on to resolutions. Item 25, 22-R3193, Spactiari's paper to support Senate Bill 403, Georgia Behavioral Health PACE Officer Responder Act. Any questions or request for information for this paper? Okay. Item 26, 22-R3195, Ms. Overstreet's paper. This is annual maintenance services for the mayor's cabinet room, small renovations. And we're basically just substituting the contractor due to a buyout. Want to confirm, or we just need a confirmation at the meeting that there's no new money. This is essentially just transferring the contractor name without any additional funding.
Yeah, that's exactly correct, Mr. Chair.
Okay. Is Who will be speaking to this from the administration? Will it be DEAM or?
Lanice Harris, who's Channel 26 station director, will speak to this paper.
Okay. All right. All right. Number 27, which is 22R-3197. This is, we're going to hold this. This is the standard water overpayment refund paper since we moved that original paper through last cycle. All right, item 28, 22-R-3198, Mr. Bond's paper requesting the auditor analysis of funds with minority and female business partner vendors. All right, I believe Mr. Bond is not on the call. Colleagues, we might think about a request due date on this as this comes before us on Wednesday. And perhaps Mr. Bond will have an idea as to what timeline, or maybe the audit office would have an idea for us as well.
Yeah, would also like the administration to have an opportunity to speak with Mr. Bond to kind of better understand the paper. I know we have Bruce Bell from the Office of Contract Compliance on the line as well. Just trying to better understand the intent of the legislation.
Or maybe the audit office would have an idea for us as well.
Yeah, would also like the administration to have an opportunity to speak with Mr. Bond.
Wow, that's pretty cool in terms of a time delay. Okay, thank you, Mr. Pace. Hopefully y'all can have the conversation before Wednesday, and then we'll see whether we're ready to move on this one or not. All right, item 29, 22-R3200. This is amendment number 5 for Train US Inc. Who from the administration will be speaking to this paper?
It'll be Deem on this one.
Okay.
It's pretty straightforward. We're adding the new users to the contract, and then they're actually adding their funding streams.
All right. Mr. Pace, can you also make sure that someone from procurement is on here to speak on this one? I'm going to raise a flag here in terms of, I understand the original contract was let and for $215,000, and what we've managed to do through the course of time with all the amendments and adding different departments and work on it is that has since ballooned to essentially 1.5 million, and now we're adding another 1.1 million on this. I just need a conversation about how, what if we were to have competitively bid a $2.7 million contract versus the way this has been done, the approach, and why that's not the best strategy, and this one is. It's just more the history behind this contract and all the amendments that have been added to it. Does that make sense?
Yeah, we do have Deputy Chief Procurement Officer Dana Greer on the call.
Okay.
So,
all right. Yeah, we don't necessarily need to get into this now. I just that is a question I'm going to raise on Wednesday because I just want to understand that in terms of contracting approach. How we coordinate between departments, and is there the advantages and disadvantages of approaching it either way. All right. So you said Dana Greer from procurement will also be on here?
Yes.
Okay. All right. Thank you. Any other questions or information needed from my colleagues on this one? All right, item 30, 22-R3201. This is a First Amendment for a series of contractors as to add, this is for Parks and Recreation to add to a joint task order. Who will be speaking to this one from the administration?
Hi, Councilmember Juan. This is Doug Voss, Department of Parks and Recreation. I'll be happy to answer any questions on that.
Very good. Thank you, Mr. Voss. Any requests for information, questions that you want Mr. Voss to prepare for before Wednesday? Okay. Item 31, 22-R3202, Gary Lee Super Design Associates for an installation at the airport. Is someone from aviation speaking to this?
Yes. Micah Smith, Deputy General Manager, will answer any questions on Wednesday, but if you have any questions now,
okay.
I can assist.
Thank you, Ms. Williams. Colleagues, any questions to have Mr. Smith prepare for in advance of Wednesday?
Councilmember Juan, this is Michael Jones, iPro. We're in the process of trying to wrap this report up. We still have some outstanding items that need to be resolved before we can release a report.
Okay. All right. Thanks for raising that issue. You know, our practice here is that if we can get all the documents and Ms. Santana Kempson Wright can circulate that by 1:30 tomorrow, then we'll be ready to act on it Wednesday. Otherwise, we'll have to hold it for another cycle. All right. Thank you, sir. All right. Questions or information from my colleagues on that one? All right. Moving quickly through here. We have two dual referred items. The first one is 22-01176, Mr. Dozier's paper. There's some workforce development work here. It is going to go to CDHS first before coming to us. So we will see how they dispense with it at their meeting this week and whether it'll be ready for us to act on Wednesday. And then 22-R3199, Mr. Bond's paper. This is conducting a feasibility study for Atlanta residents to access free public transit within the city limits of Atlanta. This will go to transportation first, and if it makes it out of there, it'll come to us. So just be aware that those are in the pipeline, and we'll see what happens this week. Any questions on either two of those papers?
Mr. Chair, I know that the last item, number 33, is requesting the Department of Finance to conduct a study. As you know, MARTA exceeds the city limits of the city. So I don't know if it's best if MARTA should conduct this study to allow free rides, or that's something we'll reach out to the author about, and as well as the community development committee as well.
Thanks. I would also suggest that you raise that question during transportation. Just at least raise the point so that if it does make it to us, we'll be prepared as well. Thank you, Mr. Pace. All right, papers held in committee. Do we have any that are coming off that anyone knows of?
Councilmember Schutt, items number 36, 37, 38, and 39 are ready. We've received the IPRO.
36, 7, 8, and 9 are ready. Okay. All right. Any questions or requests for information from my colleagues on those? Okay. Ms. Kempson Wright, any other legislative items that we need to run through during the briefing today? Did we cover everything?
I believe so.
Okay, colleagues, anything else? Any questions or comments in preparation for Wednesday's meeting? All right, administration, anything else that need to bring up with us while we're gathered here today in Holy Matrimony?
I just wanted to mention that the Department of Finance has satisfied requested item number 2.
Oh, yeah, okay. Thank you. Thanks. Ms. Kempson Wright, do you have a copy of the information?
I will go back through my emails. I believe that may have been included in something they sent over prior to the full council meeting, which was after the meeting. So we will document it for the next meeting.
Okay. All right. Thank you. Thank you, Department of Finance. I don't know who that was, but thanks. All right. Anything else from the administration? All right, y'all. Thank you all. Have a great rest of your afternoon. We'll see you Wednesday at 1:30. Bye.
Thank you.